The story opens with a deeply disturbing and emotionally heavy scene that immediately sets a dark tone. A small young girl wakes up in fear and confusion, realizing that she is trapped in a strange, enclosed space. The surroundings are unfamiliar, cold, and silent, creating an instant sense of panic. She does not understand where she is or how she got there. The walls around her feel solid and unmovable, and there is no visible way out. Instinctively, she calls out for her father, believing that he will come to save her. Because for a child, a parent represents safety and protection. Her voice echoes, but there is no response. The silence becomes more terrifying than the darkness itself. As she continues crying and calling for help, something horrifying begins to happen. Cement slowly starts pouring into the chamber. At first, she does not fully understand what it is, but as it rises around her feet, the reality becomes clear. Panic completely takes over her body and mind. She screams louder, begging for help, struggling to escape, but there is nothing she can do. The cement keeps rising, cold and heavy, slowly stealing her ability to move. Her cries become desperate, filled with pain, fear, and helplessness. No one hears her. No one comes. The darkness closes in, and the scene fades, making it clear that the child has lost her life in one of the most cruel and inhuman ways imaginable. This opening moment is not just meant to shock the audience, but to establish the emotional core of the story. It shows how innocence is brutally destroyed and how cruelty can hide behind walls and silence. The building itself becomes more than just a structure. It feels like a living tomb, designed to trap and erase lives without leaving a trace. The child's death is not witnessed by the world, and there is no justice, no closure, only unanswered questions and buried truth. The time jump that follows, moving 15 years into the future, gives this opening tragedy even more weight. What happened to the girl was never resolved, never punished, and never spoken about openly. Her death becomes a hidden scar buried within the building, waiting to resurface. The memory of her fear and suffering lingers invisibly, shaping everything that follows. This single event connects the past to the present and explains why the building carries such an oppressive and disturbing presence. Through this beginning, the story makes it clear that the true horror is not supernatural, but human. It is about what people are capable of doing when obsession, secrecy, and power go unchecked. The child's fate becomes the symbol of all the lives that were silenced and forgotten. Her final moments haunt the narrative, reminding the audience that some crimes are buried not just underground, but within walls, systems, and people who choose to stay silent. This tragic beginning lays the foundation for everything that unfolds later, proving that the past is never truly gone, and buried truths always find a way to rise again. 15 years after the horrifying incident involving the young girl, the story shifts to a new phase, introducing Samantha, a confident and ambitious young woman who has just completed her engineering graduation. Her life appears to be on an upward path, full of promise and opportunity. A graduation celebration is held in her honor, and her father is present, proudly watching her step into the professional world. He is the owner of a powerful demolition company, known for tearing down old and unsafe structures. During this celebration, he offers Samantha a major responsibility that could define her career. He assigns her the task of supervising the demolition of a massive, famous, and long-abandoned building. If she completes the job successfully, she will earn a partnership in the company, making this assignment both a professional test and a personal milestone. Samantha accepts the challenge with excitement and determination. This is her first major project, and she is eager to prove herself, not just as the boss's daughter, but as a capable engineer in her own right. When she arrives at the location, the scale and isolation of the building immediately stand out. It is an architectural masterpiece, once designed by a legendary architect, standing alone in a remote area with nothing significant around it. Time has worn it down, but it still carries an intimidating presence, as if it is guarding secrets within its walls. Upon entering the building, Samantha meets the caretaker, a quiet and reserved woman who has remained there despite most residents leaving long ago. The caretaker informs Samantha that only a few people still live in the building, including her teenage son, Jimmy. Jimmy helps Samantha carry her luggage to her room and explains the building's strict rules. He warns her not to go to the 8th floor, which once belonged to the architect, and not to access the rooftop due to safety concerns. These warnings feel unusual and immediately create a sense of mystery. But Samantha initially dismisses them as superstition or caution. As Samantha begins inspecting the building, she approaches her task with professionalism. She carefully examines the structure, identifying key points where explosives must be placed to ensure a controlled collapse. She marks these locations with red paint and documents everything in a detailed report. Despite her focus, she cannot shake an uneasy feeling, as if the building itself is watching her. The silence in the corridors feels unnatural, and every sound echoes too loudly. Later, while visiting a nearby market, Samantha uses a laptop to research the building's history. What she discovers deeply unsettles her. Years ago, 16 people were found brutally murdered inside the building, including the very architect who designed it. Although a worker was accused, there was no evidence, and the case was never solved. The truth behind the massacre remains unknown, leaving the building's past stained with violence and mystery. This revelation transforms Samantha's assignment from a simple demolition job into something far more disturbing. The building is no longer just concrete and steel. It is a crime scene frozen in time. Still, she chooses to continue, driven by her sense of duty and ambition. This phase of the story highlights how professional responsibility, personal ambition, and hidden history collide, pushing Samantha unknowingly closer to the danger buried within the building. As Samantha continues her stay inside the building, the atmosphere grows increasingly unsettling, and the sense that something is deeply wrong becomes impossible to ignore. What once felt like an empty structure now feels alive, filled with unseen eyes and lingering memories. Samantha begins to notice strange details that disturb her sense of safety. She feels watched while moving through corridors, hears unexplained sounds, and senses a presence behind walls and ceilings. These moments create constant tension, slowly breaking down her confidence and replacing it with fear. Her interactions with Jimmy, the caretaker's teenage son, become more complicated and uncomfortable. Jimmy appears polite and helpful on the surface, but his behavior gradually reveals emotional instability and suppressed obsession. Samantha begins to realize that Jimmy has been observing her far more closely than she had imagined. Small signs, such as his unusual knowledge of her movements and personal routines, raise red flags. His emotional responses feel intense and inappropriate, creating an uneasy power imbalance between them. The truth begins to surface when Samantha experiences disturbing physical and psychological events. One night, she suffers from a vivid nightmare that mirrors the horrific fate of the young girl who was killed years earlier. In the dream, Samantha finds herself trapped in a sealed chamber as cement pours in around her. Just like the child from the past, the terror feels real, blurring the line between dream and reality. When she wakes up, the fear does not fade, reinforcing the idea that the building is repeating its history through her. Soon after, Samantha discovers a hidden space behind a bathroom mirror. When the mirror shakes violently and is removed, blood begins seeping from a hole in the wall. Pale hands emerge and drag her inside, placing her momentarily in the same kind of chamber where the child died. Though this moment later appears to be a nightmare or hallucination, it confirms that the building holds a psychological grip on her, forcing her to relive past horrors. The situation intensifies when Samantha brings her boyfriend to the building. What was meant to offer comfort instead reveals the truth. Together, they explore the forbidden 8th floor and uncover hidden passageways built into the walls. These secret corridors allow someone to spy on every room and bathroom in the building. Samantha realizes that Jimmy has been watching her in private moments, violating her trust and personal boundaries. This discovery is deeply traumatic and explains the constant feeling of being watched. When Samantha confronts the caretaker with this truth, Jimmy is exposed and humiliated. He leaves in shame, but the damage has already been done. Samantha's boyfriend becomes increasingly uneasy, sensing that the building is dangerous and unnatural. He urges Samantha to leave immediately, but she insists on staying one more night, believing her work is complete. This stage of the story marks a turning point where hidden obsession, psychological terror, and buried secrets fully emerge. The building is revealed not just as a place of past violence, but as an active instrument of control and surveillance. Samantha is no longer just an observer. She has become a target, trapped within a system designed to watch, manipulate, and break its victims, setting the stage for the horrors that are yet to come. The situation reaches a terrifying new level when Samantha realizes that the danger surrounding her is no longer subtle or psychological, but physical and inescapable. After Jimmy gifts her the architect's diary, a crucial truth is revealed. The diary contains detailed architectural sketches that suggest the existence of a massive hollow space at the very center of the building, something that does not appear in any visible layout. This discovery confirms that the structure has been hiding secrets far beyond what Samantha initially imagined. When Jimmy volunteers to check this central space and suddenly disappears, fear takes over, pushing Samantha and her boyfriend to search for him despite the risks. Their search leads them to the heart of the building, where they discover a deep vertical shaft hidden within the structure. From below, Jimmy's voice can be heard calling for help, claiming he is injured and unable to climb back up. Trusting his words, Samantha decides to descend using a rope while her boyfriend holds it from above. As she lowers herself into the dark void, the atmosphere becomes suffocating, and every second feels heavier than the last. Midway down, tragedy strikes. An unseen attacker kills her boyfriend, causing the rope to slip from his hands. Samantha plunges into the darkness below, surviving the fall but losing her only support. At the bottom of the shaft, Samantha comes face to face with a shocking revelation. The architect, believed by the world to be dead for 15 years, is alive. He has been living in hiding within the building he designed, imprisoned but also protected by it. The man reveals his twisted ideology, explaining that he murdered 16 people to preserve the building's legacy. He believes that great structures should be eternal, like the ancient pyramids, and that human lives are a small sacrifice for architectural immortality. His words reveal a mind consumed by obsession, arrogance, and a complete lack of empathy. Samantha soon realizes that Jimmy has orchestrated this entire trap. The cries for help were a recorded cassette used to lure her down. Jimmy's voice echoes from above, delivering messages and commands. He demands emotional submission, insisting that Samantha must learn to love him before he will allow her freedom. This revelation exposes Jimmy's obsession as dangerously delusional. Fueled by loneliness, jealousy, and emotional instability, the building has become his tool, just as it once was the architect's. Trapped underground, Samantha is forced into psychological torture. Jimmy controls their food supply, communication, and movement. The architect, though physically weak, continues manipulating the situation, justifying his past crimes and encouraging Samantha's captivity. The environment becomes a prison of fear, control, and madness. Samantha is stripped of safety, trust, and dignity, left only with her intelligence and will to survive. This phase of the story transforms the narrative into a battle between obsession and resistance. The building stands as a monument to human ego and cruelty, while Samantha's captivity reveals how unchecked desire and power can destroy morality. The horror now lies not in mystery, but in the brutal truth of what people are capable of when they believe their obsessions are justified. As the story moves toward its conclusion, the focus shifts to survival, confrontation, and the collapse of long-hidden lies. Trapped deep within the building, Samantha begins to understand that escape will only be possible if she confronts the source of the horror directly. The architect, who has been manipulating events from the shadows for years, reveals the final extent of his madness. He believes his purpose is complete and openly speaks about death as the final step in preserving the building forever. To him, the structure is more important than any human life, including his own. His desire is not freedom, but immortality through concrete and memory. Samantha recognizes that the architect is no longer a man guided by reason. He sees himself as part of the building, almost as if he belongs inside it. When he begins digging his own grave within the shaft, it becomes clear that he plans to die there, sealing himself into history along with the structure he worships. He provokes Samantha emotionally, pushing her toward violence, knowing that only an extreme reaction will end his story. Forced into an impossible situation, Samantha finally kills him, ending the cycle of murder that began 15 years earlier. As the cement starts to pour once again, the architect meets the same fate he inflicted on his victims, disappearing into darkness and silence. Above ground, demolition preparations are underway. Samantha's father arrives with his team, unaware of the nightmare unfolding inside. The caretaker, still hiding the truth, lies about Samantha's whereabouts, claiming she has already left. Jimmy stands nearby, visibly torn between obsession and guilt. As the countdown to the demolition begins, Jimmy's internal conflict reaches its breaking point. Overwhelmed by love, jealousy, and fear, he finally runs toward the building, screaming Samantha's name. His actions stop the demolition just in time, allowing the truth to surface. Jimmy reaches the shaft and finds Samantha unconscious but alive. Realizing the consequences of everything he has done, he understands that there is no escape from responsibility. In a final act driven by guilt and despair, Jimmy jumps into the shaft, choosing death over facing the reality of his crimes. Samantha is rescued shortly afterward, pulled from the darkness and brought back into the light. The caretaker is arrested for imprisoning the architect for years and concealing the truth from authorities. Samantha learns that the architect designed 27 buildings, most of which still stand, but this one was meant to be his ultimate monument. Ironically, because the truth has finally come out, the demolition is cancelled, and the building remains standing, not as a symbol of greatness, but as a reminder of obsession and loss. The story ends with Samantha surviving both the physical and psychological horror, forever changed by what she endured. The building stands untouched, no longer powerful, but exposed, carrying the weight of its history. The conclusion leaves a haunting message that human obsession, when left unchecked, can turn creativity into cruelty and legacy into tragedy. If you enjoyed this dark and intense story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And check out my channel for more movie stories and thrilling videos coming your way.